All right, Alika Hope, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good,
Very
good.
good.
You are award-winning singer, Rave Hope, and Laugh of Hope founder, a TV host, and Miss New England, America. Correct?
All of those things are true. Yeah.
How do you juggle all those things?
Ever since I was a young child, no, for a long time I've had a lot of energy, as long as I can remember.
Yeah, I do too. I do
Basically
too.
it.
It's the show and drinking. That's what I consume it with. And a dead end job. Dead end job definitely helps for energy. I'm doing it wrong though. You're doing it right.
I'm doing it right? That's
Yeah.
what they tell me.
What are you most
But
proud of out of all those accomplishments?
what am I most proud of? Can I give you the non-politically correct answer?
Absolutely.
Can I?
Yes.
I'm most proud of being a mom.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask too. I thought you were. I thought I saw tweets that you were a mom, and I was going to say too, with being a mom, is that even harder to do all the other things?
Actually, having my kids has taught me really how to manage time better. So, the downtime that I do have, I make use of because I don't know when I'm going to get it again.
Wow. Yeah, like I'm a dad, but when I'm divorced, so when I get my kids, like we take breaks. Like I'm like I can't do anything else. It's just the kids. Like it's I also want to just focus all my time on them when they're up. But it's
Yep.
hard for me to do anything else.
Yep.
So yeah,
Well,
that's
how old are your kids?
that's three boys, seven. I think 10 and 11 are the oldest. They're only 10 months apart, so they're like Irish twins.
Okay. I got you.
How
And they're
many-
all boys, too, right? A lot of energy.
Oh yeah. Total. That's all it is.
Tons of energy.
All it is. All day. Do you have all boys or?
No, I have a boy and a girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you gonna have
And,
another?
Am I what?
Are you gonna have another? Are you planning on having another or no?
I have no idea. Who knows?
What
I
are
have
the,
two dogs also, so sometimes I feel like I have four kids.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
always like another kid.
I'm curious. What are the ages between your son and daughter?
They're a little over 2 years apart from each other.
Okay.
So yeah, and they're great kids. I've kind of involved them in everything I've done since. I had an audition for New York City Opera when I was 9 months pregnant with my daughter, and so I like to joke that she's been in the industry since before she was born.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
When did you become Miss New England?
that was earlier this year in February of 2019, and actually my reign officially ended with the Ms. America pageant, which was last week. And so during this year, I've done a lot of appearances and trying to help out the local community. And pageantry was pretty new for me, so that was an interesting experience.
How did you get into that?
My daughter, she saw an email, and she said, "Mom, you should enter the Ms. America pageant. You'd be great at that." And I'm like, "What?" That was literally I remember because
That was
we were at my son's class, and my daughter said that. I'm just looking at her, like I have time for all that. I got to pay bills, but she really inspired me, and so I kind of just jumped in
Were you
head
the
first.
Were you the first black Miss New England?
I was, and I actually, that came about because someone asked me. I think it was a historically African American newspaper asked me, and I was like, I don't know. Let me ask the woman who ran the pageant, and she said, you know what, you are. And then it took on an even deeper layer of historical significance for me.
That's what I was going to ask. Did
So
it have a lot of pressure
Yeah.
involved in it? Did you have a lot of pressure from the community to either make changes or whatever?
No, I found people to be supportive across the board. I think because they knew that I was doing it also to kind of raise awareness about different things that I try to, shed light on, different issues. And I think also because the work that I do at the Ray Hope Project around the history of African Americans in this country and in New England, it kind of totally tied in.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to explain that too. The Very Hope project. It uses African American spirituals to shed light on the combined anti-slavery efforts of blacks and whites.
About, oh gosh, let's see, 6 years ago, I was at a historic reenactment place in New England, and I looked around. I'm originally from Oregon, just so you know, so I didn't grow up going to this place like a lot of my friends had. And I looked around, and I was like, well, that's interesting. There's not much here telling the story of African Americans, and not a lot about Native Americans. And I went home, and I thought, I wonder if they'd be interested in having some music. Because I'd, sung black spirituals since I was a little girl at funerals, weddings, whatever. So I wrote them an email saying, I have this African-American spirituals program that I think would be a good fit, which, of course, I didn't have it, right? I was still, like, nursing my, 2-year-old at the time, but whatever, Go with it. I needed some money. Lo and behold, they wrote back saying, oh, we're so interested. So that's kind of how that was born. And I wanted to be sure to talk about how whites and blacks in the North actually worked together to end slavery in the South. That was important to me to, rather than talking about us and them, talking about how people work together.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I never even really knew about that. I didn't know that whites and blacks work together for that.
Particularly in the Boston area, there's quite a few blacks who had prominent businesses. And then it kind of expanded from there into, now we do a lot of work around social justice in general, and that came about from school principals and such saying, hey, you're really good at this. Do you do stuff around social justice just in general?
That's awesome. And is it well received from, like, crowds? Like, do people come see you guys perform? Is that what it is?
So if it's kind of two things going on. Sometimes people want us to just come and, like, do a gig, like, perform, and then we'll do stuff from different eras. But more often than not, I have an agent who's based in Boston, so she specializes in, like, educational programming. So more often than not, it'll be a school that sees, what we're doing or sees a video or something and asks us to come in and do a workshop for either the whole school or for, we've done it for certain grade levels and libraries and places like that.
What? Who else is involved in the project?
I do. Right now, I have 12 male musicians on my roster, which I guess I'm technically the boss of. Haha.
Do you ever make them make them get you coffee and stuff? You gotta boss them around. You can't let them slip up.
Well, I do have 2 older big brothers, so I actually love working with guys. And they've helped contributed to new songs, and they're just a blessing. So all of those guys, I handpicked them, not just how good their musicianship is, but also knowing that they'd be good with different groups of people, different ages and backgrounds and such.
How did you connect with them in the first place?
So I spend my time between New York City and the Hartford area in Connecticut. And when I first came to the Hartford area, I met a couple of musicians, and I started doing gigs with them as a singer to make money when my kids were babies. And then I think just, it's just like word of mouth. And I kept meeting more and more and more musicians. And then, 2 musicians turned into 16 and et cetera.
That's awesome. What is Laugh of Hope?
Well, for Miss America, we had to have a platform. And I wanted to do something that I thought would reach all Americans. And so, people have platforms like autism and diabetes and things like that, but I was thinking, what would be accessible to all Americans? And my girlfriend and I were up late at night, she was helping me brainstorm, and I said, laughter. My whole life people have made fun of my laugh, and I used to be embarrassed. My father has a huge laugh also, and then I started owning it. And she said, Alika, laughter has a lot of health benefits. And I was like, really? She said, yeah. So we Googled it that night, and that's kind of how Laugh of Hope was born. And I said, this is a platform that I want to share with Americans, that laughter has all of these health benefits. Everybody can laugh. And I feel like, it's something that opens doors and unites people, as opposed to the divided state that our country is in presently in many ways.
I was gonna ask what was your opinion on that. It just seems like the news, they're trying to make us like hate each other type of thing. It's like, oh, look what this white guy did to the black guy. Look what the black guy did to these white people. It just seems like everything they show is trying to divide us.
I can't disagree with you.
Is there any? I don't know. I feel like it wasn't like this. Even I grew up in the 80s, 90s. I don't feel like it was ever like this. Do you feel like it'll ever be back as it was, or do you think we're going in a direction that's irreversible?
Well, that's a tricky question. And I actually listened to some of your episodes, and I like you guys. Because I was like, I wonder if they're going to ask me a tricky question. So I'm thinking as I'm talking to you. Can I say that I don't want it to go back to where it was? You said, well, go back to where it was.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I feel like we have made a lot of progress in some terms, but in like some ways, like I said, like the media, it just seems like it's, I don't know, like dividing us or
the media's feeding off
not even trying to, but there's all these people that do things and then they get glamorized. They get on the news and then it just either copycats or whatever, you know, you don't even know. You don't even know what it is in the minds of these people. It's just, it's nuts.
I feel like it's also just a mindset of media where it's like people love drama, so we're going to cause drama. We're going to make up drama to draw people into watching.
Or even like the president. I feel that he's a piece of shit, but I feel that people are taking him being a piece of shit in a whole nother like sense and just doing even shittier things under the premise that this guy it's okay, you know? It's just really weird to me.
I think everything you guys are saying has merit. But I think for me, at the core of it, if we remember that media is driven by money and finances, and that one of the reasons why I've tried to step away from some of the news, no matter what the source, is I know that the more people that watch a particular program or watch, XYZ or tune in to something, even social media, which, I'm very active on. I think it's a great tool. But even though we think it's free, there's still advertising dollars, right? So if we are divided, and if we take certain sides to any issue, ultimately it's going to bring more money into whoever it is that's promoting that agenda. And that's kind of how I step back and I say, okay, who's really benefiting here from us being divided? Because it's not me versus the Trump voter in the factory. Neither of us are benefiting from us hating each other. That's the thing. We're both losers in this game because we're not making money off this. Who's ultimately making money off of it?
Right, yeah. Do you know the answer to that, though? Because I wouldn't even think that. I wouldn't even think that far.
That's how my brain works.
Yeah.
And so I do think we have a lot of potential as a country. And, going back to laughter, I feel like my calling in life has been to unite people, however that appears, and I'm totally open. But I think I tend to look at someone and say there's something greater at work here. And, I think you're also right that people can take political figures, not just Trump, but there's some Democrats people have taken as political scapegoats and used them to represent all evil. Yeah. And that makes us demonize the individuals next to us.
Gotcha. And going back to Alika Hope, is that like, do you visit places? Like, what is it? Is that like a comedy tour that you do?
No, and I think I have to do a better job of clarifying that. And so since it's still like brand new and a work in progress, what I wanted to do is I offer programs free as a service to the community. So what I've done is I've designed a program that's age appropriate. So the last one was that with 4th and 5th graders about asking them what brings them joy in life. For example, with this group of kids, having them draw pictures of what they find joyful in their life. What do people feel like when they're happy? What does it feel like for you to laugh? And are you doing those things in your life that actually bring you joy? What are the things in your life that are stopping you from having joy, right? Which is very different from saying, it's all good, no negative vibes. To me, that's silly.
Yeah.
So it's really taking the time to help people think through what are those things that are bringing you joy and are you on that path? And for adults, some of the work goes into some of the racial reconciliation work I do in terms of laughter has been scientifically proven to bond people. So if we start in a place of communal joy, can we then go into some deeper conversations? And that takes time. But as opposed to coming into a conversation saying, here's why you're bad and here's why you're bad. Let's come into the conversation saying, here are the things that unite us. Let's start in that point and then talk about the things that we find difficult.
That's awesome.
What do you like? What do I like? And what do we both like?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can go, Alika.
You're good. No, fine. Go ahead. Please.
I was gonna ask, have you ever had any like younger kids say some crazy things? Like my son William, he'll just say some crazy things, or he'll just start making some ridiculous jokes. Like, have you ever had a kid like just throw you something that you know you shouldn't laugh at, but you do?
Yes. And I'll say, and depending on the moment. So I also have a master's in early childhood special ed. So I've been trying to combine my music and my education stuff together to do some of these projects. And I'll look at a kid, and 9 times out of 10, when he says something like that, he's looking for some kind of reaction. Why? So that he gets attention to bond with me, right, or to bond with other people in the room.
Yes.
So I might laugh for a second and say, wow, that was funny. Now, why could that hurt someone's feelings? So actually having a conversation so that I'm not calling the kid out at a young age, right, and saying, that was wrong. You don't talk like that. Because when you do that, then they become adults who are afraid to say anything. Okay,
because there's so many times like I have trouble, but I've done that too. One of my sons was on what's that, the Switch Slim, and he was leaving reviews on people's like stages on Mario, and he was like being rough. And at first I was going along with it. I was like, yeah, that's pretty funny. But then I was like, wait a minute, buddy. Like, what if it's like an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old? Like, you wouldn't want to see that, would you? Like, and he's like, no. So then he started leaving like better reviews for their stages.
That was perfect. Because what are you doing? You're showing him empathy. You're showing him how to show other people empathy.
Yeah, because at first he was like, yeah, you stink. You stink. And I was like, yeah, that's good. But then I was like, wait a minute. No, buddy. Like, what if it's like you? You wouldn't want to see that, right? So, yeah, it's hard. Sometimes you just want to laugh or go along with it. But then it's like, yeah, no, you can't. You can't.
You can't if your ultimate goal is to share love. And I think sometimes it's hard for kids because they don't realize there's a real person behind that, right?
Yes, that too. Absolutely.
And so, my son and I in the house, we tell yo mama jokes to each other, but there's a time and a place, right? So we make sure that we know this is the time for us to see these yo mama jokes, and then we crack up because we're acting a fool. That's my 9-year-old and I, But he knows not to do that, like if we're in a room with 20 people having a serious conversation.
See, that's where my middle one, he doesn't. It's like if you can't even ignore him. You can't even ignore him and hope he'll stop. You just gotta shut him down because like he will just keep going. He's
that's right.
nuts.
And that's right, and that's okay because they're kids, right? And it's our job to like show them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have to remember that they're kids and they don't know, and sometimes it takes like 2 years for them to figure it out. That's okay.
What is Alika? What is Connecticut Perspective TV that you do?
That's a show that airs here locally on Fox and CW that is kind of like a lifestyle show, like the top pizza places, or last year I went skydiving for the first time ever.
How was that?
That was I don't know what possessed me to do that.
Like, will you never do it again?
What?
You will never do it again?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think so. It was exhilarating and also the second scariest thing I've ever done, second to childbirth.
Wow.
I can't even. Have you guys gone?
I've never, but I always said like out of like all the things, like out of like bungee jumping and stuff, I would probably do skydiving first. Like, I don't know why that one's like the least scary to me.
I think bungee jumping is much scarier. The thought of like being attached to some elastic and then bouncing up and down, I couldn't do that.
And almost like smashing your head on some rocks. Yeah, that scares me. But I mean, skydiving's crazy too, though, with the chute and all. But I still think I would rather do that because somebody else is probably there that could grab you if something messes up.
And with skydiving, you're only falling once. Bungee jumping, you're falling and then going back out and then falling again.
Right?
Yeah.
Is your like brain shaking the whole time? Like, what's that going to do to your head? We can't afford to lose any more brain cells. So.
No.
And I assume not only the going down part being scary, but the going up part is probably just as
then you're
scary.
Going down again, stupid. Like, there you go. There's a whole nother pit in your stomach. Another ulcer. What was the best part what's the best thing you took away from skydiving? That
I can overcome my deepest fear. when I first jumped out of the plane, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I started having a panic attack, and I said to myself, it's out of your hands now. Just breathe, just breathe. And, the combination of being, I think we were 12,000 feet up. We were higher than the typical plane. And in that air pressure and jumping out of a plane and being out of control, I really thought I was going to die, to be frank.
Wow.
And I realized, but then once I embraced that feeling and let it go through me and said, this is out of your control, so accept it. And within maybe 10 seconds, my whole body shifted. And at that point, I realized I can do anything.
That's amazing.
Not anything, but it's really reduced my fear, my level of fear in my daily life tremendously.
That's cool. I feel like it would reduce anxiety too.
Yes.
It would go hand in hand with that kind of a thing.
Yes, and I would say, if you are fearful or anxious, jump out of a plane, because I know it sounds counterproductive, but just
jump off of a bridge. Off a bridge. I feel like I'd have to be pushed.
6-story and jump.
I feel like I'd have to be pushed, because I remember even as I was in my teens and I worked at a summer camp and we had to jump off something into the water and I had to be pushed. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. And I'm like, you got to push me. And that
was me too. I'm telling you, I couldn't even do those. Because I grew up in Oregon, we had to go to outdoor school. We had to climb those giant ladders and then do the trust fall.
Yes.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah,
I turned around and walked back off.
I don't trust nobody.
That's what I said. I don't trust you people.
It's my spine. I'm not trusting any of you.
So if I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. And I was going to ask you too, Alika, having accomplished so much, is there anything, and doing so much, you do a lot, is there anything that you still would love to do that you haven't gotten a chance to?
Yes, I want to write a book.
Do you know what kind of book, or?
You have any suggestions?
I don't know. I wanted to write a podcasting book for years, but I'm like, it's just an oversaturated market, and I guess you kind of got to be a major player. I don't even know. Or a kid's book. I want to think of something so stupid that every kid is I got to have this and bug their parents for it. And then there you go.
Then you're good. Then you're golden.
Yeah.
Read a history book, but your interpretation of that history.
That's pretty cool.
Ooh, I like that.
Or what is a comic book, but for the adults? What's the word?
Graphic
novel. Yeah. Yeah.
Graphic novel. I like that too. I like the history books for my interpretation.
That is an awesome. That's an awesome concept.
Okay.
Well, and I actually thought of that because I just got hooked on the Hamilton musical. Which is amazing.
What?
Which is the best musical in the world. It's a musical about Alexander Hamilton, one of our founding fathers. But the book that the guy that made that musical based it off of is just one version or an interpretation of Alexander Hamilton. Apparently, there's several different history books that view Alexander Hamilton differently.
Which one was he? What dollar is he on?
The $10 founding father.
So he ain't that rich. He's not the best.
I like it.
What was the story though? What was the story And
so in the musical, the story was really just about how Alexander Hamilton was this 19-year-old kid that lived in the Caribbean, suffered through a fucking hurricane. His father died. He moved in with his cousin. His cousin committed suicide, and then he moves to America, and he just meets a bunch of guys at a bar, and they drink some beers, and they're like, "Revolution, woo!"
What?
And then George Washington is just yo, Alexander Hamilton, you're my right-hand man. You're the fucking best, but you gotta just write shit, because I don't know if I could put you in the field or anything like that. And then eventually he puts him in the field, and I can keep going. It's a long.
I love it.
I
want Alexander Hamilton.
Dude, you gotta listen to the Hamilton musical because it is all hip hop.
Was he in a duel?
Yes, he was in a duel.
I did a report on him, and I loved Alexander Hamilton.
Aaron Burr.
Yes.
Him and Aaron Burr.
Yes,
they were rivals from the beginning. They were friends. He met him in a bar when he was 19. They were friends, and then eventually,
Ryder just texted me and said she loves Alexander Hamilton. She's yes.
The Hamilton musical is amazing. It's hip hop, and it's the fucking greatest fucking thing in the world.
Where is it? Is it on Broadway?
Yeah, it's a Broadway musical.
That sounds awesome. Where did you see it, Hot Dog Boy?
I just listened to it. Somebody told me you gotta listen to this musical, and eventually I did. I listened to it on Amazon Music.
Okay, that's what I didn't know.
You didn't go see it?
I haven't seen it live. No, I really want to now,
I think
though.
it's
But
touring.
I think he is. I think
there's
he's.
I think there's a national tour happening. You should see.
Have you
Anywhere near you.
have you seen it live?
No, I haven't. That's horrible.
But you've
really like
you know what
old
what I'm talking about though. Like you've listened to the
Sounds
whole
awesome.
musical.
Oh no, I've listened to the music. Every single one of my friends has seen it. All of them have seen it on Broadway. All of them love all the songs, so I know the songs. I just tend to only go to musicals that are like old.
And like Cats.
Rent.
Oh no, old like My Fair Lady. Like,
Oh.
yeah, I like the really old stuff where the voices are like big and they have these gigantic orchestras. And although I will say I loved In the Heights, which was also Lin-Manuel Miranda from
Correct.
Hamilton. But In the Heights also follows like a more traditional musical theater format. But that's a great one. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
So I started after listening to Hamilton. Like I became obsessed with Lin-Manuel Miranda, and so I did start listening to a little bit of In Heights, but I have not finished it yet.
That's really what he blew up from. He's a genius. I have to say he's a genius. And he does a lot for his community, too. So, but you should definitely, if you haven't heard Hamilton yet, you should check it out.
I definitely want to. I want to go see it. We got to go see it. We got to go see it,
That'd be
Slim.
amazing.
Alika, we have to wrap this up. I can't believe how fast time has gone. But is there anything else that you need to plug or tell people to find you?
You can find me easily because I'm the only Alika Hope in the United States. I believe there's some in Nigeria. But you could, if you put in Alika Hope into Google, my different forms will come up. And I will say, if anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, which is where I met you guys, which I'm so happy for, it's Alika Hope. And if anybody has any book ideas that they want me to write a book about, please feel free to contact me. How's that?
Rob and Slim, the book? Would that work?
The what?
Would Rob and Slim, the book, work?
Robin Slim,
The
A
book.
History Through the Eyes of Alika Hope.
Yes, perfect.
The musical.com.
A musical.
Thank you.
I bet there hasn't been a musical about a podcaster.
Ooh, that's a good one.
All right. I think we're going to have a project in the works.
Podcasters from Jersey. Let's do it.
Podcast musical. That's what it's. Thank you so much, Alika, for talking to us and for still talking to us after you heard us. Once you said you listened to us, I was like, oh no, this could be bad. You're not gonna do this.
Oh, no, I
interview.
love it. I love it. You guys keep it real, so keep keeping it real.
Thank you so much. And again, where can everybody find you?
Alika Hope, anywhere.
Awesome. Alika, correct?
Yep, Alika, and then Hope, Hope. So you can find me on Twitter, Instagram. You can email me, alikahope@gmail.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
too.